I think to know your strengths, you got to know your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
My weakness sometimes is like the finish line.
Yeah.
I love the thought process and the imagination of building a deal and making or creating some new product or, a new business. And then, hoping somebody's there with me that can see it, because my energy comes from creating that next thing. So that's probably my passion.
Welcome back. Season 3 of Buildcast. We are on episode 100, right, James?
4, Brian.
4. Episode 4.
4.
We are on episode 4. Brian Hurd here with my good friend and co-host, Natalie Roberts.
Good to be here.
And we have a repeat. Rusty Stout, founder of JS2 Partners and co-founder. Sorry. Yeah, Jen is watching. So, and author of Healthier Homes.
Yeah.
Rusty, really good to have you back.
Yeah.
Great to be back.
It's been 2 years.
I think longer, maybe. I don't know.
It may have been,
maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
But
right in the middle of COVID, for sure.
Lots happens.
A lot.
Got to give you guys a hug, so that was nice.
That was good. Yeah.
Really kind of excited to hear everything that you've been doing. But for those that may not have seen the original episode, shame on you for that. Tell us a little bit about your journey. What is your inspiration? Why did you start Healthier Homes, JS2, whatnot?
Yeah, the inspiration is very easy. It's my wife, Jen. She is the reason why we do what we do. She's the reason why I sold my commercial building company and started building houses. Quick backstory of how we got to where we're at. She was at SMU getting her MBA, and she started getting real sick and couldn't figure out why, and eventually found out there was black mold. Her workstation was in a little closet in her apartment, and it backed up to the shower, and the shower pan was leaking. And so it was full of Stachybotrys mold. And she got really sick, really fast, and lasted for quite a while. And she became sensitive to everything, like chemicals, fragrances, clothes, food. And so she really needed a place that she could heal and be stress-free, and that place didn't exist. And so she did all the research, found all these materials that she could tolerate. And she did her first home in Houston, before her and I met. And so, fast forward a few years, we met in Horseshoe Bay and, got married, and then wanted to build a house, and people started hearing about it and wanted one for themselves, and JS2 was born. Super happy to have the book so Jen can really share her story, because I think that's been good for her and for me as well, because I've been super proud of her for so long and how strong she is. And so it's great to be able to share that with everybody else, a little piece of her for everybody else. So.
Next time we do a podcast with Rusty, you need to bring Jen.
Jen must come.
Okay.
She sounds pretty amazing. You're not bad either, but
We like you too.
So did you have any concept that you wanted to do a healthier home prior to meeting Jen?
No. I had no concept.
So that's 100%.
No thought. I was doing government construction, Department of Defense.
It's about as unexciting and sexy as you can think of.
I joke that I used to build square boxes with gray walls, and I was excited to get in residential, and now everybody likes the modern homes, and so I'm still building square boxes with gray walls.
But all the cyclical.
But at least they're healthy now. So that's good.
Well, we don't have to mention any specific names, but I think, if the goal of this is obviously to bring awareness to what you're doing, but also to your brand.
Yeah.
And how do we do that?
For us, it goes beyond building. I can't build a house for everybody, but everybody has a table like this in their home. And so if I can put coatings on it that are safe
and the book
and make money, why not?
And the book on that table.
I would think that especially as we're starting to see a lot more people do renovation, just because the cost of land and all that stuff is so expensive. Plus, nobody wants to give up that shiny 2.5% interest rate.
Yeah.
That, if you've got older houses and Lord knows what sort of toxins are in the walls and all that, this would be really, really beneficial.
And that, that's what's really neat about our paint is that it basically acts as a blocker, encapsulates whatever we put it on, it'll just seal it in and it will no longer off gas. So like I could put it on oil-based paint and it won't ever off gas that oil base anymore. And so we tell people all the time, like, what is the biggest fundamental change you can make to your home? And you think, what's the biggest surface? It's your walls and your ceilings. So like just paint it. You go to a big box store and you buy 0 VOC paint and you actually dig into the ingredients. VOCs don't really mean anything. Like vinegar is a VOC, but there's nothing.
Wait, what is VOC?
It's volatile organic compound.
Okay, got it.
It's like what comes out of
me like I'm dumb.
And so what you really should be looking at is the HAPs, or hazardous air pollutants. And most of the big box paints that are 0 VOC are full of that. And so we're different in the sense that we don't have any of that.
I mean, and I get that part. It's just, what's the differential in cost between regular paint and?
So it depends on the level. Like we're going to be right there with like Sherwin-Williams high-end paint, like their super paint or something like that. That's our price point. I mean, we're at about $82 a gallon for paint.
So in the hotel, I mean, they would make sense for them to use it in their branding.
Yes.
Because otherwise why pay? I mean, I'm sure the colors are the same as anything else.
As a hotel and you want 500 gallons of paint, obviously you're going to get a better deal.
Sure.
And then, but
I mean, they need to let people, you're not going to spend that kind of money on all this paint if it's not a substantial benefit to the client. So you lay that.
The end game for us is to get to the point where instead of people are paying us for our paint, they're paying us to put our name on the hotel, like Healthier Homes. Like, sure. That way I don't really have to do anything. Like, yes, you can use my name.
Healthier Homes by Hilton.
Yeah.
Once you get one environmentally driven brand hotel, they're all going to jump on.
It's the fear of missing out. It's like, well, gosh, they're doing this. I better do it too. But what's really cool about our manufacturer is they love trying new stuff. So this hotel, they're right on the ocean where we sent it to first. And he's like, your paint stand up because people like to open the doors and, to all the salty air and luggage. And so we said, all right, we went to our manufacturer, told them what we're going to do. Within a week, they had reformulated and sent us a sample. Like, here's this hotel's paint. But, it's things that are way down the road. I mean, but we can certainly talk about it. And there's lots of stuff that we're working on with different furniture manufacturers that we're trying to change the game.
Y'all need to get into, I just got this like download. Just hearing all this, I wonder have you tapped into hospitals?
No, that's
rehabilitation
something
center.
a little, I think they require a little bit more control over
the red tape. I would imagine would be.
It seems like they would need it.
Totally agree.
Because it's, you think all the
hospitals and the medical industry need a lot of stuff.
Yeah. just make it safe.
I used to build commercial companies
to build hospitals.
Yes, and so I know all about and I'm like, I don't really want to deal with what Brian says 100%.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with that. Oh, it's like Fred. He's got he has a place down in the valley that it just supports. It's like a mental health rehab center, and the amount of red tape and government, and I don't even know why you're doing this.
Once again,
it consumes
how
half
old
his
is
life.
that facility?
Yeah, they bought the ranch, I want to say like 20 years ago, and then they've just been building on. They need more beds, but that old part, it's shady.
How much retrofit needs to be done in order to, maintain the standards that the paint was designed to maintain?
Not really much. I mean, we have we call it a renovation primer, and so it's designed it's very, very sticky and tacky. So no matter what your substrate is, this primer will stick to it. And then our coatings can apply, and it's essentially locked everything behind it in. So you don't have to sand it down. You don't have to do any of that stuff. I mean, it's designed specifically to encapsulate whatever's there and then accept the new coating.
And no worry about it degrading over time.
I mean, obviously
within reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect, we're
Yeah.
not putting a 200-year disclaimer on there.
I tell you, an interesting thing that we had come up when we did the sustainable podcast was, our webinar was, they open it up for Q&A, and there's always one, right? And so they're like, how can you be on a sustainable podcast when you have acrylic in your paint? Acrylic is plastic. And Jen actually had like the perfect answer, because if I would have said it, it'd have sounded so smart ass and snarky that we probably would have been kicked off. But she was like, paint, it's not like you paint it and then you tear it down and throw it away.
Yeah.
You paint it and it stays there for years and years. So in effect, it's sustainable.
Yeah.
It's not like, you can't be everything all at once. Like you can't always just like zero this, zero that. Like
I don't know what would technically go into a sustainable paint anyway. I mean, what are other options?
So they have milk paint, which is horrible. It looks horrible. It doesn't. And then they have some that's like just like clay, or I think it's called earthen. And
is it cost effective? Is it scalable?
Yeah,
I don't think so. But if you're into that kind of old world Italy look, that's kind of a translucent
type thing.
Pastel looking.
Okay, I got you.
And it's, some people are so sensitive that that's what they feel that they need, and at least it's there for them.
That's a good point. So, you said old world on design. I checked out. I think Texas home builders have built enough Tuscan to last.
Well, Hill Country Tuscan was a curse word for, well, it kind of still is, but man, it's everywhere.
We did one in the Juliet balcony. I'm like, never again. It's like it's just a leak waiting to happen, and sticking out of the hip side of the roof.
So where's your passion at? I mean, you're a home builder, you're an entrepreneur, you're a co-author.
Yeah.
Which one do you love the most?
I think just finding the next deal. I think to know your strengths, you got to know your weaknesses. My weakness sometimes is like the finish line.
Yeah.
I love the thought process and the imagination of building a deal and making or creating some new product or, a new business. And then, hoping somebody's there with me that can see it, because my energy comes from creating that next thing. So that's probably my passion.
Which is the way I am. I mean, I like to say I'm strategic.
Yeah.
And then you surround yourself with very tactical people.
Oh, to me, like my business is nothing without the people that are around me. Like it's to me, one of the biggest qualities of a leader is selecting people and hiring the right people and surrounding yourself with people that are much smarter than you sometimes.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I married one and we work well together, because not only is she smarter than me, but she's like, once her nose is down into something, she's not pulling up until it's done.
So let's dig into that a little bit, since, this new book specifically was co-authored by the two of you. Let's back up a little bit, because, when we talked last, I think it was a couple years ago, how did that connection happen? And how did you guys decide to start your own company?
Well, so the book came about. We did a house for a guy in Las Vegas, and he's very ill, him and his wife both. And they had lived in a moldy house similar to what Jen went through. And the house that they built in Vegas, Jen and I knew that obviously this guy was very successful. We had no idea what he was doing, but the house was amazing. We had a great time doing it, and we became friends. And he's like, you guys, there's a book in here, because we shared Jen's story, and we're like, yeah, haha. Well, he owns a publishing company. And so like the next week we get emailed a contract for a book, and I'm like, what the hell?
It's like sometimes.
Really? Like, and fast forward, a year and a half, late nights, they put us with a great editor, thank God. And so, then the book came out, and I'm sure there's an English teacher back in Texarkana going, what the, like, really? Rusty Stout? Come on. This kid.
How is that, writing a book with your wife?
Yeah. Great question.
So it's a loaded question, but
Great show.
I'll do my best. It's
Jen is going to be watching.
oh yeah,
the
100%.
Taking every moment.
Fortunately, we worked so well together that I was more like the idea person, like we were talking about. I was like, I think this is a good way to talk about this, and then Jen would bring it to life, and then we'd send it to the editor, and he would say, "This is great." The editor became a friend. The editor bought a house while we were doing this book and was completely freaked out, like, "Oh my God, what do I look for?" Like, and so part of the book too was to make. We're not looking to scare anyone, right? Like, live your life, enjoy it, but there are things that if you can just do half of it, you're bettering yourself or in your environment. And so the editor was like flipping through the stuff that we had already written, the manuscript, and he made some changes to the house he bought. It was really cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But to go back, how we started JS2 Partners, the business was when Jen and I met, she was in the process. She had just bought some land and was going to build a house or a healthy house. And I owned a commercial construction company at the time. And so I was helping her along. And a lot of people started reaching out to her that she knew through her health journey. It's like, "Hey, I heard you're building this house. Could I get one of those?" And and I was like, light bulb. I'm like, help people make money, do something with your wife. Great. Let's do it. Sold
Maybe advance the building industry.
Yes. Well, to be honest, like we weren't even thinking about that at the time. We didn't realize how we thought this would be like a little niche thing. And so I sold my commercial company and then we started JS2 Partners.
How long ago was that?
2018.
2018.
And so, and COVID hit and it's like, bam, like now we're, we feel like we're changing an industry.
Yeah, that was interesting timing, because when we last met, that was literally in the heart of COVID. I mean, we were just talking earlier. Yeah. We literally had to show up in mask or walk through the building to get to the studio wearing masks.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting, I mean, it seems like so long ago.
Feels like a decade.
Yeah, a lot of things have happened since then. But one thing, I mean, just coming to see you guys and like hugging you and like embracing it was like so much better this time.
Yeah.
I had a great time last time, but it was weird, right? Like when you meet people, it's like
so uncertain.
It's like, do you shake their hand? Like, what do you do?
I think there's a much more of a craving for that now, especially because I think COVID made us realize real human interaction is so important, and I won't go down that rabbit hole too far, but everything was social media. That was it. And that helped us a lot too. We still do a lot virtually, but I think that we so needed that, that touchy feely stuff as much as that pains me to say.
Connection.
You're digging. I said that.
But stamp that.
There you go. James can edit it out.
No, we can't.
Oh, well, I'm fine with it. Yeah. But I mean, it's just, you're right though. I mean, it was better this time because gosh, I've not seen you in 2 years. That's bad on me.
It felt like 2 years, I think with time on that. And another question, starting in 2018, understanding COVID, how did you navigate?
Well,
good question.
Fortunately, like coming from a commercial background, the schedule is everything. And so I brought that to our custom home business. And so we were already set up to, like, we wouldn't start a build until all selections are made. I know some other companies like do it as they go. We just never did that. And so it was like, I wouldn't say we were smarter. It's just the way that we did it. And so when COVID hit, we were prepared because we were already set up. Like we had a warehouse full of drywall and insulation and all this stuff.
Very few.
Because I mean, we like trying to build as fast as we can while still maintaining quality. And so that was just something that was
ahead of the game coming in.
Yeah, I guess, dumb luck, maybe. I don't know.
What kind of things were you warehousing, like window packages and stuff like that?
No, our drywall is pretty specialized. Insulation, appliances when we could get them. We're there. Garage doors were a huge problem.
Oh, yeah. Front doors were a huge problem. Ice makers, refrigerator.
Yeah.
So, wish I would have just bought like 100 acres and put lumber on it. Probably wouldn't have to be built.
We all
houses
do,
anymore,
Rusty.
but-
We all do.
Somebody should have done that after the ice storm.
Very true.
Not going back, but you just mentioned something as well. And I know the last time we talked with you, it came up, and personally, I talked about it for 2 months, and it was the drywall, how you source it,
Yeah.
where you get it. I know we were both blown away because it's such a departure from what we see in production or even custom home building.
Yeah. And departure might be, I guess, an interesting term, because the drywall we get is not any more expensive. It's not anything. It's just actually telling a supplier, like, I don't want this from a fly ash source. I want natural
Right.
gypsum. I mean, it's simple as that. It's just taking that next step.
Yeah.
Production guys don't think about next step. They think
Right.
about bottom line. That's their business.
Yeah.
For us, it's the next step. I mean, we're to the nth degree about the details. And I mean, and that's all credit to Jen too. When she was going through her health journey, instead of giving up and laying around and being tired, she researched and found all of these products and how to create this healthy environment. And so that's kind of how, and now it's second nature, really. But there's still challenges. Everybody's different. What works for me or what works for Jen or what and unfortunately we do see people that you can't really help. Like you can't do it, and that's the hardest part. It's like they're like, well, you build healthy homes, but I'm just, their situation is a little different.
Right.
So.
Everyone's so different.
Well, we definitely want to get to the healthier homes part, but before we move on from the home building side, quickly walk us through what goes into the design and building of a healthier home.
So it starts a little sooner than that if we can. And I mean, we talk about that is like site selection. A lot of our clients are kind of sensitive to electromagnetic type deals. And so it's maybe finding a lot that's not under a power line, which I would hope everybody wouldn't want to do that.
Is that a common thing? And how do people know that ahead of time?
I don't
Or
know
are they
how
just
they know.
sensitive
Jen is another one that's, our canary in the coal mine, as we call her. She's sensitive to.
Or Jen?
It's interesting how it affects people. For Jen, it's almost like a fluttering of her heart. And when we first met, I would forget, and I would leave my Wi-Fi on or something like that, and she would say, "Your Wi-Fi's on." I'm like, "No, it's not." And now I look at my phone, I'm like,
Oh my God.
Very attuned.
Yeah.
That's
And so it's interesting, the people that we get. Some of them that maybe it doesn't affect physically, they're still in tune with it, and most of them just want to shut down at night and not have all that stuff going on around them and stuff. So
Was that more like the EMFs and whatnot?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so site selection, trying not to get at the bottom of a hill where you have everybody's water coming. And then design, it's really not a lot different than designing a conventional home. Maybe, I don't know how to say. Our homes aren't weird or anything, but all the framing's the same.
Sure.
The foundation's the same. We take it to the next level with like our poly that we use underneath the foundation. It's really thick versus like the stuff that most other people would use. But yeah, it's just really paying attention to the products and their ingredients, not necessarily how. Yeah. Because our whole goal was we didn't want your house to be like on the block to be like, oh, that's the healthy home. We want people like, wow, look at that house. And then when they go in there, it's like, man, the air is different here. It's the house that's on the cover of this book. We just finished it, and we did a showing a couple of weeks ago, and somebody said it was like getting a hug when they walked in the house. And I'm like fumbling. I'm like, hold on, let me say that. Let me record that.
That's fantastic.
I wonder, in coming up with or talking about how the homes are built, you mentioned and you tapped into a warm hug, right? What is your top success or favorite story of somebody share after living in your home for a year?
Oh gosh, they're all so different. And what's interesting too is a lot of times that doesn't come until several months after, because I mean, you guys are in the industry, you know, by the time you get to that move-in date, there's been delays, there's been overages, and a lot of time you just kind of want to
never.
you kind of just want to like
8 turned
maybe
into
they
18.
definitely don't want to see me the way that we set up our company is I'm the bad news guy. I handle the financing and the scheduling. That way the
So you're
guys
basically the Grim Reaper. What you're
yes,
saying.
and I do that so the guys in the field don't have to be the bad guy. I want them to have
Good
those
for you.
good relationships, and so they generally don't want to speak to me for a few months after. But then we do get those calls or we get those emails where like my daughter, her asthma is not flaring up as bad, or
Okay.
we had a couple move from New Mexico, and we saw them twice before they actually moved in, and to get that level of trust from someone, and then when they move in to talk about how they were just blown away with what we were able to do via face. I get
was
chill bumps
there.
talking about that. It's like we did that whole thing via FaceTime with them. And like for them, and this lady was really, really sensitive. And for her to walk in and not have any reactions to it whatsoever, I mean, that's
gotta
probably
make
a
you feel
cool one there.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because usually the owners are there all the time. And so they see it, and that we want them to. We want them to see behind the walls. Most good builders can make it look pretty, but like we want it to see what goes on behind the wall. And so I think that one's probably cool to get that level of trust. And
Yeah. Well, and my marketing brain is going off now, and the
It
questions.
usually does at this
I
point.
know it's like so. I think what we're hearing is people are coming to you. They've got, they've either through a referral or the efforts that you guys are making.
Mhm.
Is that the number one driver of your business?
yeah, I think the efforts, marketing a custom home business is hard because anybody can throw pretty pictures up and say, I built this house. And, and I tell people this, like you can line up 5 good builders and we can all build you pretty much the same house with a good set of plans. It comes down to who can you spend a year of your life with and trust them with your biggest investment you've ever made. And so I think where we're able to separate is that the level of care that we're putting into this house. And we build it, every one of them as if my wife had to walk into it. And she is one of the most sensitive people I've ever met. That's why we joke she's a canary in the coal mine. And she's with us the whole way through these builds. And I think that gives our clients a level of comfort to know that, okay, this person went through what I'm going through.
Exactly.
And there's light at the end of the tunnel. And if she co-signs it and she's comfortable with it, I can be too. But then it goes even further than that, because when we started, we were getting those clients that were ill or maybe been sick. Now we're getting young families that don't have any issues. They just want this. They want the healthy stuff. They want their kids to grow up in that.
So you're finding that they come to you already knowing essentially what you do.
Yes. I think in the last 3 years, and I don't say this to brag, but I think
It's okay. You can brag on this.
we've probably had to do bids on 2 houses, actually bid against another contractor. Most people just come to us and they're ready to sign up.
Well, and it's a trend, right? I think nationally, globally, we're moving towards what's in my food, what's in my home, and now you're ahead of the curve. And ta-da!
Well, that's what Jen actually. You and Jen would probably talk for hours. Her background is in marketing as well, and so she came up with Whole Foods for your house. That's what she calls our stuff.
Oh, I love it.
Wow. I don't know if we're
partnership coming up.
If Bezos wants to call, we can talk.
Quick, get a trademark on it. You're good.
Well, let's move over to the more entrepreneurial side, and the book that you wrote, Healthier Homes, and then the website. Talk a little bit about that.
So,
first of all, what was so important that you needed to write a book about?
Well, the important thing for me, I don't think Jen knew it at the time, but certainly for her, was to share her story.
Okay, perfect.
And to share it with other people, to know that it was important for people to know that we're not writing a gimmick, that we're not trying to be this niche market, even though we are. And it's, the riches are in the niches. I think most people would say that, but to know that we're doing it for a reason.
Yes.
And so a big part of this book is her story and what she went through and how, her health journey. And then we treat it kind of like a spec book in construction, where you start with site selection and you start with foundation, framing, window. You can just follow along. It's not meant to be a technical manual. I think it's more like a reference. So if you're thinking, well, I want to paint my house, well, you can just it's right in here. You can go to the paint section, and it talks about paint, and I mean what you can do, the different methods, the different materials, and all that stuff. So it's really about sharing how to start that conversation for your project or with your builder of how to approach a healthy home.
So you launched a website.
Yeah. So go back. Yeah. I'm sorry. I missed
No,
the
you're
entrepreneurial
good.
deal. So the title, I don't even remember the original title of the book, but we were thinking, it's like, we're talking about all this stuff in the book and telling people like, this is what you should do. But then we realized it's really hard to find. Like Jen has spent hours and hours of her life trying to find these materials and these products. And so, light bulb again, it's like, well, let's create a website. It's called Healthier Homes. And most of the stuff that we talk about in there, you can find it on that website. Our paints are available. We have a cleaning product. A real popular thing that we have for people that maybe can't paint or like they have an old piece of furniture that stinks or something, is we have a fumes and formaldehyde blocker. And you can spray this clear.
Oh, wow.
You can spray it on there, and it encapsulates everything and locks in all those fumes. And formaldehyde's in everything in construction. I mean, it is like the favorite, thing and it's a naturally occurring substance in wood. So formaldehyde's tough. And so we came up with this sealer that will encapsulate it all.
Does it encapsulate a 13-year-old boy after a
I'm going to try. I have a 3-year-old, so we'll try. I'll do some R&D and we'll get back to you.
So we expect this from you and Jen.
Yes.
So let's talk about applications outside just regular residential homes.
So, yeah, I mean, you like specifically paints or just
any and all of it? I mean, paint, I think, is probably the most universal of all the products that I could see from your website. But, what applications does that have, in other industries and whatnot?
So the hospitality industry for sure, I think is a good one. A lot of hotels are really trending into the health and wellness space. I don't know if you guys read any of the trade magazines in building, but it was really interesting, like COVID, and literally every ad in the Texas Builder magazine is healthy this, healthy that. And so we're like, wow, man, our timing is great. Like this is coming. And so I think our paint's good for hospitality. We're working with some furniture manufacturers. They're all switching to sustainable methods, and they're getting away from VOCs. Where they have issue are the varnishes, or like the urethane coatings on the top. And so we're working with, I don't know all the terminology. I think they're called like a big five. And so we're trying to come up with a top coat for them. And so that would be that's something I hope maybe next time I come back in 2 years that we can be like, yes,
let's hope it's not 2 years.
We can do this.
But you got to find something really cool to come back.
Yeah, right. So, we're constantly thinking. And the fortunate thing about this is just meeting all the people. And it's funny, you'll probably relate to this as in the marketing brain. It's like everybody has an idea for what you should do. And I find that if you just are open to that and accept it, like a lot of people become your think tank for you, and they don't even realize it. And so
crowd thinking, essentially.
So, and we talk to people. We go to a lot of trade shows. We've been to High Point, North Carolina twice. We've been to the Atlanta market. We're going to New York in August it's called Sharp Objet. Can you edit that? I just said objet out. That's a little weird.
Objet.
But no, we meet these people and they're into like sustainability and green, and which we are too, but people are starting to learn that doesn't necessarily mean healthy. That, okay, I have this nice recycled beam in my house. Well, it came out of a fertilizer factory. Like, they spilled Roundup.
I mean, that's a really good point.
So, I mean, it's just things like that, just talking to all the people.
Are we going to see you at IBS this year?
I don't know about IBS. I will be at TAB next month. We're actually speaking at TAB. We're doing an
Really?
education seminar at TAB. So
I mean, IVS,
Or
it's only
Sunbelt.
350,000 people
Yeah.
you could potentially
We'll be
reach.
yeah.
We're selling it for that.
Is it in Orlando or Vegas this year?
It's always
Always
in
Vegas
Vegas
now.
moving forward.
Okay. Then we'll be there. No, the Texas Association of Builders asked us to do a seminar at Sunbelt this year.
Nice.
So we're doing that next month, and curious to see how that's received by the other builders. You know, honestly, when we first did this, at the time, I was the president of the Hill Country Builders Association and caught a little stick for it. You know, people were like, well, what are you trying to say about how we build? So I'm not saying anything.
Somewhat conservative neck of the woods out there. So,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so,
This is the construction industry as a whole, though.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't mean politically. I mean,
no,
you
I,
know.
no, 100%. I know what you mean. And so the answer was, we're not saying anything about this is what we're doing. I don't spend time thinking about what you're doing.
Yep.
Well, now that people are moving to the Hill Country, well, people are moving there for us. Like we had the couple from New Mexico. I'm finishing a house next month for a couple from Colombia, the country, not
Really?
Georgia.
You're seeing an influx of international.
Well,
That's
they're-
fascinating.
yeah. And so I think these other guys are like, wow, he has people moving like
Specifically
for this
you.
product.
Yeah.
And so now we have several builders that, you know, offer our paint as part of their package. And
Love it. Yeah.
we get calls all the time like, hey, can you tell me how to do this? And I'm like, no, you know, that's
Read the
Well, when
book.
we were talking
Yeah.
about offline, you know, who your target audience is, I mean, home builders,
Yeah.
designers, you know, I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
different, you know, parts of our industry that could be impacted by this.
Yeah.
You know,
Remodelers, straight to consumer.
100%.
I
would
think-
to imagine.
I think the remodel, and we talked about this off
Mhm.
air, the remodel market's about to explode. I mean,
Very
we
much so.
know John Winsboro. I mean, they're probably going to he'll be driving a Lamborghini in a couple of years. You know?
Be in the private jet.
Yeah.
well, yeah, because, you know, nobody wants to get rid of that shiny little 2.5%
Yeah.
interest rate, but there may be things that they want to do. They want to update, you know, or
Yeah.
you know, make it healthier, more modern, so on and so forth. So yeah, I could see where this
Because
is.
we're spending more time at home,
Correct.
even post COVID.
Yeah.
And although there are many large corporate employers that are asking to come back in,
Yeah.
there's big ones that are not.
The ones that are getting a lot of resistance.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of
We're-
resistance.
So it's
Yeah.
funny you mention that. When we do customs, used to having an office was like, well, if it'll fit in the
Yeah.
budget or in the
Not
floor
anymore.
plan. Now it's like, I need two.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I want two
Yeah.
offices, or I want one, and then in my pantry I need a nook or a desk.
Oh, that's cool.
We had that architect from Florida. That was our first season. Oh gosh, that was maybe 3 or 4 episodes in, but that was a big thing. And this was interesting, you know, going back because our first season really was during that first 8-9 months of COVID. But what she was talking about, exactly what you're saying. I mean, you know, not just having one workspace, because, you know, usually you want to have a home office and you might use it occasionally, but now you have spouses that both work. And you got kids that need a workspace, all that kind of stuff. So, or even having exactly. See,
Yeah.
you got me. You got it.
Jen and I took it a step further, and because you know we had to people want to come and see where we live and
Yeah.
stuff, and so, you know, I don't mind people coming to my house, but I didn't like having to make it look like no one lives there every time it comes.
Couldn't do it.
And so Jen and I built a home, like we have a model home, and that's our office. So it's like working from home, but it's a different home, and so people can come and you know and be in one of our homes.
I think that means a field trip.
Please, hey,
I mean,
come on,
yeah.
come on. We'll-
Usually happens.
we just finished that one there, that rendering on the cover, so y'all could come check that one out.
Yeah, we'd
too.
love to.
Get Brian to
Yeah.
buy it.
I mean, I may need to move, you know, so
Everyone needs a lake house
exactly.
or by the lake.
What's next?
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. We're really, really trying to grow Healthier Homes, the website. Still focusing on our custom builds. We're fortunate that we haven't seen that much of a downturn. I mean, we're booked up through next year, so I mean that's good. We have visions and have been approached different investors to do like developments. And we talked about that a little bit, where
Ooh,
it's
that's
kind of a
interesting.
split between build to rent and then, you know, like not custom homes, but
I'm okay.
I think anything that we do, I would never call it production or track. It's still going to be custom, but maybe
Semi-custom.
semi-custom
I've seen
types. Yes, there you go. I like it. She's gonna send me a bill after.
She like use that word for everything.
But it's I call it the chicken or the egg problem,
Yeah.
because it's like, do I go buy the land and then come to the investors, and because we can't afford to do a development, or do I get the investors to come buy the land? And so what's interesting
What
is a lot
banks
of our
are for.
past clients have you know, they're the ones that want to invest in it. So that's kind of a cool deal to know that, you know, they believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the cool thing is we're seeing a lot of now is builders that are doing community developments. You
Yeah.
know, not just your production and tract guys, but
Right.
you know, your custom builders. You know, where they'll come in and they'll purchase the land. They'll probably finance the horizontal piece. But then what they're doing is funding the vertical piece in the buyer's name.
Yeah.
You know, and you can do economies of scale. You can keep costs where you need to be, because if you know, if you got 50, 60, 70 houses that you're building. But the cool thing is funded in the buyer's name.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we probably need to have a chat off.
I mean, that is what we do.
Yeah,
It says Thrive Mortgage.
I think you mentioned that. I think you mentioned that in our phone call last time, that you had some things that you guys can do in that. And so, you know,
We don't like to talk about program. She doesn't allow me.
no, it's
But
You are
You know,
not allowed to
there's
talk
finance.
race on this show.
it's really that, but it's also a bit scary.
of course.
I'm more optimistic than I probably should be, because I'm kind of like, oh, let's do it, and then I'm head first into it.
Jen's in the back crunching numbers.
Yeah, and she's like, no, we need
Hold your horses.
let's think about this. So we balance each other out pretty well. We have an opportunity in Salado right now on some acreage, but I don't know much about that area.
We're going to have to talk after, because we've got some acreage as well.
That is very true.
We know of some things for you,
Okay.
Rusty. It is good timing.
Well, Rusty, really appreciate you making the trip out.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry it's been 2 years, but we got to make sure it's less than that this next time.
Yeah, for sure.
And really look forward to coming out and seeing the property.
Yeah, love it.
Best way to reach you.
Healthierhomes.com.
Okay.
You can get the book there. You can get
Where do we get the book?
The book is Amazon, Barnes and Noble, local bookstores. We always like the local bookstores.
plug.
Yeah, the shameless plug. I'm terrible at that. And then of course healthierhomes.com.
Healthier.
And then there's all kinds of other free info. There's some e-guides. There's all kinds of stuff.
Couple podcasts out there.
We have podcasts. This one will be on there. So
Yeah.
Well, again, Rusty, appreciate the time.
you bet. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rusty.
Bye.